Welcome to In All Honesty, the podcast where we talk about the impact of inflammatory neuropathies like Guillain-Barré syndrome, CIDP, MMN and other related conditions. I'm Rich Collins, the Chief Executive of Inflammatory Neuropathies UK, the only UK charity that solely supports people impacted by these life-changing conditions. On each episode of this podcast, I'll be joined by someone who has something to say about inflammatory neuropathies. We will have some very honest chats, and I'm sure there's going to be some tears, mainly from me, along with some laughs. If you want to know more about what Inflammatory Neuropathies UK do, then head over to www.inflammatoryneuropathies.uk. Hello everyone, it's Rich here from Inflammatory Neuropathies UK, and welcome once again to our podcast. Now, it is February, it's MMN Awareness Month, so who better to have on our call today but the only man in Gibraltar with MMN? It's John Navarro. Welcome, John.
Thank you for having me, Rich. It's been a long time coming, and thank you for that introduction. It's amazing. You made it sound much more grander than what it actually is, man.
There is nothing that isn't grand about you. An absolutely superstar of the MMN world. Everyone within kind of our circles knows John or knows of John, it's we've been trying to get this together for a little while, but we were holding it back for MMN Awareness Month for obvious reasons. So John, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
I think first and foremost, I'm my pride and joy. I'm a father of three. I'm 39 years old. I'm from tiny Gibraltar, a British overseas territory, hanging on to a tiny piece of mainland Spain, the very south. Population of only 38,000 people, like you rightly said. I mean, I'm the only MMN patient here locally, which we'll get into the challenges that poses, as we go into our conversation. Like I said, I'm 39 years old now. I started with my original MMN symptoms, I'd say when I was about 31, 32. So, relatively young in the MMN sense. And I was a fit person, a fit young lad, I like to think. I used to go to my gym. I used to shoot pistols, something that you're not really too much accustomed to in the UK.
No, God, no.
Yeah. I shot competitively, actually shot for Gibraltar for the Island Games. The last Island Games, I'm too bad with dates, but you can go back and just see that it's not that far off since I started having issues with my hands as my MMN progressed. And that's pretty much a brief intro into myself.
So those symptoms, you're 31, 32, what happened? How did you spot this coming on?
Some very minor big toe issues on my left foot, It was somewhat weaker. My socks would bunch up in between my big toe and my that toe that's right beside it. I don't know if it was because my big toe was weaker. My nail would sort of dig into my toe, minor things. There's things that I also had some back issues, and I think that the hospital mainly put it down to the back issues I was having, and because it didn't really play a big issue in life, I just continued, I was still running in the gym, I was still walking as normal, just this slight issue, which slowly, as the years, I'd say 6 years went by, and these symptoms developed into a foot drop, and then into muscle atrophy or muscle weakness, in sort of the calf area on the front of the calf. You could see the bone was a little bit more pronounced than on my right leg. I guess that my right leg was also overworked also, so might have made it a little bit more, I don't know, like more muscly. So it made my left one that was having the issues look a little bit more weaker, I guess, and thinner, perhaps.
So 6 years of little symptoms, but progressing. I take it you went to the doctors with these. What were they saying it was?
Yeah, on and off. I would go to the doctor because it wasn't really playing that much of an issue, in my life, like I mentioned before. I think that not much importance was paid to it. I didn't either. As a patient advocate, I understand more about that now, after my work with the foundation. But I should have advocated perhaps for myself more before, but I felt I was getting weaker, also psychologically as the time was going by, and I didn't really feel like I wanted that added, somewhat pressure or stress, of keeping on inquiring.
when we don't know something, we don't know it, do we? So, I guess when you've got, I mean, the thing with MMN is it's not abrupt. It's not like, GBS super acute happens really
Mhm.
quick. CIDP can come on over a few months. MMN takes a while
Oh, you do
to
get
come
used
on.
to living with this. You do get used to it,
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's something that as it's happening so slowly, you do get used to living with it, and it becomes a part of your daily life. So less importance you pay less importance to it. And I did also have back issues, lower back issues. So I mean, I did also have. I was also thinking about that. It must be my back. I mean, I've had these issues for many years. A couple of bike accidents. It's totally normal. That.
And this is it,
So
isn't it? We think it's something else.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
can't be anything really sinister. It must be those normal everyday pains and stuff like that. You're a
I didn't
young
take
man.
care
You're
of
not.
myself when I
Well,
was
yeah,
younger.
well, none of us do when we're 31. Who pays
I
attention
know.
then?
I
When
know.
you
I
get to
know.
my very old age, you start taking a bit more notice of these things. But then you put it down to age, and no one's looking out for anything
Mhm.
super sinister. So and we know MMN for most people diagnosis takes a really long time. When did you actually get your diagnosis, and how did it happen?
Okay, so I got my diagnosis around about 8 years after the first original symptoms, and about 2 years or so after I had started having symptoms with my hands.
Right.
So I mean, I think that after about 6 years of the leg and foot issues, I started with my initial hand symptoms, which originally I could only describe as, I didn't know that this was the correct term, but I could only describe it as wrist drop,
Right.
just because I knew about foot drop, but it was similar. And the feeling or no feeling when the drop was happening, was something very similar. So I thought it was that, and that's when I started worrying. I started going back to the hospital. I started advocating for myself a little bit more. I think the hospital also saw that the issue was a little bit more complex now, that it was affecting my hands in a very similar way to issues that I've been having on my foot for so long. And so we were carrying out more tests. I mean, in the end, I couldn't even hold a toothbrush, or
Right.
cutlery, or so that's how bad my hands had gotten. In the initial symptoms, I think that were worrying me were that I've got an open plan kitchen. I've got the blur on right now, but I'm sitting in this room. You
Mm.
can see the end of the room, which isn't that far away. So. I love a cup of coffee, and I usually this 4 or 5, 6 times a day. I make a coffee at my coffee machine in the kitchen and bring it down to the sofa here in the living room. And I couldn't make it to the living room, with the coffee without dropping it. And this was every single time. And so that's when I really, really started to get worried. And I used to test myself out, with other things. And as soon as I gripped things, my wrists would fold in. So that also progressed, until the point where I didn't have to grip anything for my wrists to be folded in. My wrists were
Right.
folded in completely and drooped down slightly, too, which is known as, I think, MMN hands in the MMN
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah.
So after that, I had some EMGs, I think I had about 5 EMGs before we actually saw a conduction block, which is the hallmark for MMN, and it was so hard to actually find that conduction block. They did find a conduction block in my leg eventually at some point, after for 4 or 5. I mean, I forget how many tests I had. And so that's where my MMN journey began, after that EMG.
So what do they do? Do they start treatment straight away, or?
Pretty soon, I think maybe 2 or 3 weeks after. 2 or 3 weeks after, I think. Yeah, I
Right.
can't
What was your treatment? Was it IVIG?
IVIG, yeah, the loading dose, the usual double dose of IVIG. And it was a bit rough after. I think I did get aseptic meningitis after.
Oh,
It is a very rare thing, so you have to bear in mind that the nurses here, as professional and as they are, they're not used to, even though they follow procedure, they follow instructions, they're not used to giving this medication, on a regular basis. So I think the infusion rate was a little bit too high. Maybe also the body adjusting to the first time ever having
yeah.
this medication and such a high dose. So yeah, I did get aseptic meningitis after. I did have a very, very bad headache, man. I couldn't even lift up my head for 2 days, man, in bed, bedbound for 2 days.
It can be rough stuff, but did it make an
2 days
impact?
after, 2 days after, I could already straighten my hands.
Wow,
Amazing,
wow,
miracle,
it's magic stuff, isn't it?
magic stuff. I hate using the word miracle, but it worked like a miracle, man. Honestly, it was such a, I don't know, such a moving experience, when I
How
saw that
how
I
did you
was getting my
feel?
hands back.
How did you feel being
It
able to
was
move your hands
emotional,
again?
it was emotional. I've never shied away, being a man, I've never shied away, there's a bit of a stigma perhaps attached, that being a man and talking about mental health and talking about the emotional aspect of it, I've never had really an issue about it, I think talking about it has helped me, so.
Good.
But I mean, it was a very emotional journey up until then, the uncertainty of not knowing, especially having so much information at hand nowadays, you can do your own research,
Good old Dr. Google. Dr. Google's not a good one, but we all do it.
Dr.
Let's face it.
ChatGPT too nowadays.
Yes, exactly.
But your symptoms, you can research your symptoms, and my symptoms usually did point to ALS. That was the main thing it pointed to. So I was worried.
MMD for us in the UK. For those who don't know what ALS is.
That's it. So exactly. I'm glad you pointed that out and to clarify for clarification. And so I did point to that. I was worried. The uncertainty was killing me. I was seeing a psychiatrist. I was taking medication from the psychiatrist. It was hard on me, but as soon as I stepped out, it's clear what it was, and it was the uncertainty that was weighing down on me. As soon as I came out of that EMG, hearing multifocal motor neuropathy, and getting the feedback from the electromyographer that there was a treatment, and learning a little bit more about it just in that moment, I was a different person when I came out of that clinic. So I stopped I don't recommend anybody doing this. I don't. So always go to the doctor to seek advice. But I stopped the medication cold turkey that day, the medication that I was taking from the psychiatrist, because I felt that I didn't need it any longer. And so that's when actually, my life changed. I started accepting it, and I saw the improvement after having the first dose of IVIG, and and I just came to terms with it.
And I presume you're still getting IVIG now. Are you still seeing improvements? Still seeing it working?
I get IVIG every 4 weeks now, over 2 days, 100 grams, which is about a liter of medication. And I do notice a dip after the week 3, it does have a half-life for 3 weeks for those that don't really understand this medication, so just for context. So after 3 weeks, I do feel a decline. And but I'm lucky, to always have it stocked here locally in Gibraltar. And even though there are not many people that have it regularly, and I'm fortunate enough and thankful for that. And this medication, it does keep me sort of leveled, and I never regained sort of myself. I never went back to how I used to be before. And even though I did get maybe, I don't know, I hate putting a number out there, but anywhere between 60 and 70% better than what I was before IVIG, I plateaued, after having IVIG for some time, and I have been progressively, very slowly, been getting worse, been deteriorating after that, But so it's just been coming to terms with a new normal every day, every moment of the day, in fact.
I guess the thing with IVIG, it's an old. They call it a technology. It's not a technology. It's a treatment. But it's an old treatment. It's been around for 30 years. It is really effective for some people, not for everyone, and it has a great impact. But it has got, like you say, a half-life. It kind of, you get peaks and troughs. So you take it, you feel much better. Your symptoms disappear, and then very slowly, as it deteriorates off again, till you get another dose, it drops off. That kind of curve that goes up and down, I'd want that flattened. If it was me, I want that flattened. I don't want. But then you're taking it a smaller dose every 2 days or something to get it in there. That would be ridiculous. So it's good for what we got, but it's imperfect, is it?
I can touch on that actually a little bit briefly. I did request subcutaneous immunoglobulin, SCIG, and I requested that because I don't have a specialist neurologist based here in Gibraltar. So I see one over video call, or when he visits a doctor from London, and once a year I travel to London to see a neurologist there at Queen's, and so I don't have. I asked him, could I try a subcutaneous immunoglobulin? I understand it's not ever been used in Gibraltar, so that might pose, some hurdle that we have to get through. But you have to break ground, always. You never know when there's another patient that might come in and might need it, and so we have to break ground at some points. And having asked for it myself, to at least try it, I still don't know if I'll be able to put the needles into myself, for example, or deal with it. I don't know, but I would like to have the opportunity to try, and that's what I was speaking about before, touching on before on advocating for yourself as a patient, Yes. I put it out there. If not, it wouldn't have been mentioned to me. Now, going ahead a couple of months, the machine the pump for subcutaneous did arrive at the pharmacy at the hospital in Gibraltar, but for some reason or another, I haven't been given any training on it or given it yet, and it's been over a year now, so I don't know what's happening there. But yeah, I may be trying that soon.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, a lot of people have struggled to get subcutaneous. There are some issues around it in terms of training and access to it, and even whether it's good for everyone or not, it differs. So fingers crossed for you, because we know lots of people who are on subcut.
And maybe something we should talk about it. Maybe something we should talk about more. And if more people need training, then that's it's going to make life easier, give quality of life to patients. So
it takes the burden away. If you can do it at home, you don't have to go in all the time, and you can kind of get that dose right, then it's much better for people.
I mean, it's not intravenous, so you're giving your veins a break, let's say. That's a bit tough on you, when you have to go every 3 or 4 weeks and have to be hooked up to your veins, to a machine, intravenously. And not only that, I mean, the dips after week 3 take a toll on you also psychologically, man. It's and the fatigue usually creeps in much more heavily, after week 3, when the half-life starts to wear off, to expire, I guess, and you start reaching that date. So I mean, yeah, it's always something to talk about, for the future. We can always speak more about that.
Now, John, for those people who are listening to us rather than watching, and some of you will be able to watch as well, you'll see that John on the screen, and I'll describe him. He's an incredibly handsome young man. He's also, if you looked at him, you go, there's nothing wrong with him. I've met him in real life, not on the screen. He's a very muscly guy. He's covered himself up today very beautifully, but he's a big, strong boy, is what we would say. Now, most people would see John and go, there's nothing wrong with him. And they do, don't they, John? All the time. It's invisible conditions that a lot of our things are, and I know you're very passionate about it. Do you want to kind of come in and tell us a little bit about how you feel?
Yeah, keeping it PG, I guess, right?
Yes, please.
Now, what I'd like to mention about an invisible illness is that it's such a case of an invisible illness, and it's an invisible illness to myself sometimes. Because there's no pain, and I read this on a post that you shared on social media, or your charity, Inflammatory Neuropathies, which I'm very grateful for the work that you guys are doing. You mentioned that it's an invisible illness, and because there's no pain, you kind of forget that the issue is there, that the weakness is there, and that's when there's no pain. You go to grab this cup of tea at the end of a hard day, and you spill it and you drop it, and there's a mess everywhere, and these tiny things during the day have been adding up, and yeah, it takes a toll on you. And a great example of how it's an invisible illness even to myself is I had to take off something that we had hung up in the corridor not a few weeks ago, or a month ago or so, and I thought, I'm feeling good today. It hadn't been a tough day, after I use my hands and my legs during the morning, or as the day goes by, I do feel my hands get weaker, so I know that I'm not capable of doing certain things. I do feel that weakness, but when I haven't and I'm well rested, I thought, I'm going to take off those screws from the plasterboard today. So I grabbed the small mirror thing, I took it off, and it only took 3 or 4 turns of the screw, and my hands started cramping up. And I took it off. I took that screw off. Only one of them. I had 2, but I took.
Hey, one's good. One's good.
Listen, it was the point of getting it done. I knew I wasn't going to be able to even turn a key in the lock to get into my apartment, for the rest of that day after having done that. I knew that was going to be the case until I rested again in that evening for the next day. But I had my elbows on the wall, and with both hands, I took off that screw. So just goes to show how much of an invisible illness it is, even to myself, So people judge. They see you. They don't think you don't want to think about that. But at the end of the day, after a few times, it's that one day. It does sort of, make you overthink it, a little bit. It just takes you that day.
But you seem pretty cool with it all. You said to me before we started recording this, kind of, it is what it is. And that's a hard thing to kind of to go with. I mean, it's most people would be crumpled and destroyed by these things. And you've spoken about, the emotional impact. What kind of difference has MMN made to your life? To work, to life, to keep with your kids, with your family.
MMN is my life now, and
Oh, okay.
MMN is my life now. It's a struggle every day. And I don't use that word lightly. It is a struggle every day, and a struggle that nobody other than yourself knows. Or other people in the MMN community, when you're fortunate enough, to have built a community like I have built, and to be able to speak to other MMN patients, you feel that they can relate. But other than this group, no matter how much you try to explain it, nobody can really relate to you, to what you're going through, and you feel like you want to do more than what you actually can. That's a feeling I get a lot, that I want to produce more than what I can, and I struggle with that sometimes, but it's just you have to be realistic with yourself, and I feel that word is really rings true. Be realistic. What's the reality about what's going on now? It's the reality is that you can't go back. Even if you could go back, if this is what life has, the cards that life has dealt you, you're going to be an MMM patient again, even if you could go back. But it's just that you can't go back. It's not worth crying over spilled milk. Your life goes forward. It's something that I have to live with my whole life. It's something that I just have to live with my whole life. I have to show strength and courage in the face of adversity, so that my children in future can see my work. All this is documented, everything that I'm doing, all every time that I raise awareness for MMN, my kids will see that. My eldest is 20, he's a man now. I'm sure that he's more resilient himself, with what right now, with whatever struggles he may have in life. He's studying in uni now. He's not having the best time. Everybody thinks that uni, but he's away from home. He's overseas. He's not having the best time. My daughter, she's 9 years old. I mean, I explained, she supports me a lot. She's very loving, and she's always watching me when I'm on TV. She most definitely watched this podcast. And then my youngest he's 1 year or 1 year old. I'm sure he's going to grow up with MMN in his life. And I just hope that they find strength where there is none, like I have. Watching me, and just to that's all that I can hope and look forward in life, and continue to raise awareness for MMN. I think that's super important.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, lots to unpack there. One, you're very stoic, and that's incredible that you go with that. But I think what you said, you gave me goosebumps actually, which is, doesn't happens quite a lot. But the thing with it, when I came into this role, I'll be really honest with this. I said it to quite a lot of people when I came in 2 years ago into this role. I was like, is it going to be impactful enough, this job for me? I love making impact. I love, is this group of people that in much of need? I didn't really know much about these conditions, and I've learned about the conditions from speaking to people. That's how I've learned. You can read it all in a book, but it's much better to get it from people with lived experience like yourself, John. Now, what you've just said there about the impact of MMN as a life-changing thing, in fact, it is your life. I mean, most people in the whole world won't have heard of MMN. In the UK, we reckon, because there's no good evidence, we think there's 402 people, according to the prevalence, living with MMN in the entire UK. There ain't many folk. You're the only one in Gibraltar. This is super rare, but it is so impactful. It's not one of these little conditions where you just kind of got a label and that's it. This is life altering, life changing illness that's progressive unless treated and managed properly, and will have an impact on your life like you wouldn't believe. But if no one knows about it, no one talks about it, and it's our job, all of us, to talk more and raise awareness. And you're doing that. I think that's an incredible thing to do, considering you're living with it as well, and everything that you've got to go through with it. But we just need more people to know about this, and more importantly, the impact of it. Not what's the name, what does it mean? What does it feel like? What's it like to live with?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's symptoms every day, even though they're small, but they do affect you. And I don't know, fatigue is a big thing for me, man. And I think ever since after the new year, I've been more fatigued than usual. And the fatigue is definitely, I don't know if to say MMN or neurological based or autoimmune based. I don't know, because I don't know if it's my immune system that's causing this fatigue, if it's the neurological side of it, or but the fatigue is just creeps in. I can feel it creeping in, and it doesn't have to be after the 3 weeks half-life of the medication. It can just happen any time. If I've overdone it in the morning, it might get around to lunchtime and I might start feeling these symptoms, so I can't sort of overdo it. High stress situations sometimes also sort of instigates this, I don't know. I'm sort of, these are things that I'm learning about myself, still, so.
And I think this is it, isn't it? It's knowing what those little triggers are that they're gonna set things off. For a lot of people, it's stress. Stress is a real issue for a lot
I'm
of
a
people.
patient first, it's super important to reiterate this, that we're patients first. At least us patient advocates, we're advocates, but first we're patients, so always I have to keep reminding myself of that I'm a patient first, because sometimes I overdo it, it's in
Absolutely.
yeah.
You've got to look after yourself in this. So, John, right, what if you've gone into your to your clinician in hospital, and just before you're due to go in, someone else walks out of that office, looking really down, and what's wrong with you? And they say, well, I've just been diagnosed as the second person in Gibraltar with MMN. What are you going to say to that person?
That's I don't know. That's a very good question, man. It's kind of made me a little bit emotional,
Sorry. Oh no.
Yeah.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because you don't come across many people with this condition. You certainly don't, because
Hug them, I guess. I can answer you now. I guess hug them, I guess, would be the first thing. No words are needed, And I don't know, it would be a very powerful and special thing, But the next thing I would say is, take my number. Let's get a coffee. There's a lot to talk about for sure.
I mean, one of the things that we talk about quite a lot here is that when you get somebody with one of our conditions in a room with somebody else with a condition, it's an incredible experience, because most people won't have met someone else. Even if there's 402 people in the country in the UK with MMN, the chances are most people won't have met each other because they're scattered everywhere. And what we know is that I've had people with CIDP, with GBS, who've had GBS coming into a room for one of our get-togethers, and they meet someone else and they go, you get it, you're talking about the same things, you've had the same experiences, and the tears come and people break, and then there's hugging, and then there's everything else. The community is so important for us. It's absolutely vital, and you're a key part of that community. But where you are, you're kind of isolated with it. I mean, there'll be people with CIDP, I'm sure, out there, and with other neurological conditions. There's 400, 600 of these different neurological conditions. You'll bump into someone with them, but they won't have the same exact experience as you, would they? I mean, you've got to look after each other, haven't you, when you find them?
That's why I did something about that, That's why I decided to actually action that, And to put that, what you just said there, and to answer your somewhat sort of hidden question there, I started finding people. I needed to talk to other patients that had MMN. That was the first thing I think I needed to do. So I started doing some research online, started looking for other MMN communities, and I came across the GBS CIDP Foundation. Now, through them, I managed to join Zoom calls with over 50 other MMN patients. What a privilege, Not even neurologists have that privilege, to be able to be in a group and everybody patient to patient asking each other questions. So, but unfortunately, we spend unfortunately for the American patients, we spend over half of the hour that we had, over 30 minutes talking about medical insurance, which is an issue that they have, that it's a very unfortunate issue that they have that we luckily don't have, So I thought, we need to maximize this hour. I was getting what I wanted, patient to patient, but we weren't maximizing the time. So, and things were different, things do vary from country to country, from institution to institution, medical institution, So I thought, listen, this is the step I need to take. I'm going to start a group for MMN patients UK on social media. I did just that. I sort of advertised it on other international groups that there were on social media, that this was solely for UK patients. Everybody's welcome, but it's solely for UK patients. The reception was amazing. I think we have around 100 patients, between patients and caregivers now. We have over 140 now. So mostly patients. You mentioned there were, statistically over 100. We have over 100. I'm sure over 100 patients in this group. So I mean, I've seen patients posting issues they're having or information that they want to know. Other patients answering. on the forum that I've provided, and that's so satisfying, and that always spurs me on. I've seen the help that other patients have been able to give each other because of what I've been able to provide, and that's always spurring me on, further to continue.
And it should do. I mean, to be honest, it's really embarrassing for us as Inflammatory Neuropathies UK because our reach for MMN is pretty small. And you did this. You went out and you set up a Facebook group, and I think within the first 24 hours you had 50 people on there, and we were sitting there going, "Hang on a minute, what's he doing? Coming in here, taking a." But it worked. It works, and it's brilliant. So I don't give a monkey's who's running.
I mean, it's just fun and games what we're talking about. For anybody listening that's not really accustomed to listening to perhaps charities, podcast, and patient speaking, this is good fun. That we're having between us everything. We all work together. So I mean, you guys at Inflammatory Neuropathies. So support us, and also we support you. It's all about the patients. It's not about anything else, So just to put that out there.
We put people first every single time. I don't care who does it. It's as long as people get better as a result of it or get better outcomes. So we've I took stock because it's MMN Awareness Month. I took stock fairly recently, and I wrote a blog piece on what we don't do for people with MMN in the UK, and we're trying to fix that. And we have a Zoom group for people with GBS. We have a Zoom group for people with CIDP. We didn't have one for MMN. We do as of this month. We're focusing much more on where we can support and what we can do to be better, and we need people like John and others to feed into all of this and help us improve it, because we're there for everybody impacted by any inflammatory neuropathy, and there's 40 different ones we cover, but MMN is really important to us because it's small numbers of people, but it's big for our cohort. So this is our third largest cohort of people with conditions MMN, so we really ought to be doing much more for people. And I do think that the charity has let people with MMN down in the past, and we're trying. I really do believe we do, and we will do better. And that's the thing. And I want
better, of course. Always strive for that, but to have let people down, you haven't at all. So don't.
Well, we can do better, and we will do better.
Exactly.
So I've talked about this quite a few times already. You're this label that you've got of the only person, the only person in Gibraltar with MMN. What? So it is a label. How does it make you feel? Because I use it all the time. People use it all the time. I've heard you use it as well. How does it make you feel?
I mean, not special in any way, to be honest. I mean, I don't feel special in any way regarding it's. I think I've just found my calling. It's unfortunate that I've had to be diagnosed with MMN, and so of course it is. But I mean, I think I've just found my calling. It's not to work. It's just something that comes naturally, and then. Yeah, I mean, okay, it is a label. Okay, I mean, am I proud to be the only person with an MMN in Gibraltar? I mean, I don't really think so. I mean, it's not. It doesn't work like that. I'm finding it hard to find the right term, to sort of describe. I mean, your question, to sort of put an answer to your question, but I can't. It's.
Do you think
I've never really thought about it like that?
Right.
It spurs me on about small communities. If there's something I can't say about that, is that something that has sort of intrigued me, for the longest time. I think since the initial stages of my working as a volunteer with the foundation is inflammatory neuropathies in small communities like Gibraltar. Small communities, I don't know, to put a number out there, communities of less than 100,000 people, let's say Andorra, Gibraltar, Caribbean islands, and how do they deal? How do they cope with patients with inflammatory neuropathies? If there is any infrastructure to cope with it, and that's something which I'm looking into more and more as my journey continues, I guess.
And I think I did a podcast not long ago with a guy called David McIntosh, and we were talking about plasma in different countries and access to plasma treatments and products. And there are some real issues around the world. I'm not here to take on the issues of the world. I'm only here for the UK and Ireland. But in terms of that, I think generally we do need to raise awareness of these conditions in other countries as well, because there will be people impacted by them who aren't getting anything at all. Don't even know that there's a diagnosis there. It's hard enough getting that diagnosis in the UK. It's hard enough getting it in America. We know people like you. We know people like Richard Sperry from the foundation, who it took years to get a diagnosis. Not uncommon with MMN. Imagine what you're like if you're in, I don't know, India or Nigeria or on a Polynesian island where there isn't, anything.
Well,
It's difficult, isn't it?
yeah. India is an area where the foundation is actually investing a lot of time in now.
Yes.
So hopefully we can get some work done there. It's very important. They are one of, I think, China surpassed them, as the world's largest population. But still, when you talk about those large numbers, just imagine how many people must be going undiagnosed and not have the right treatment.
Absolutely. And when you look at data, that's it's definitely happening. So we need to do something about it. Right. People will be listening to this, John, and going, how do I get in touch with this fella? How do I follow him? I'm sure as a young man, you're busy on social media on there. What's your social media handles? How can people get hold of you? Where's the best way?
Okay. The best way is to find me on @Gibraltar86 on Instagram, or you can find me as John Navarro on Facebook. You're more than welcome to get in contact with me there. If you'd like an email, it's Gibraltar1986@gmail.com. So you can also use that. You can also get in contact through Inflammatory Neuropathies. You can look for Multifocal Motor Neuropathy UK on Facebook. We have a support group there. And through there, you can, even if you don't have MMN, but you'd like to know more about it, you can also, on the questionnaire, you have to join the group, because we don't just allow anybody into the group, obviously, as you would expect. You can just on there leave what it is that you're after, and I will most definitely get in contact with you. I contact everybody back. So
brilliant, John. You are an absolute star. It's been an absolute pleasure and an honour to have you on here and to speak to you. So with that, I'll say thanks, and we'll talk again soon. Nice one. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
You've just listened to an episode of In All Honesty, a podcast made by Inflammatory Neuropathies UK. It was presented by me, Rich Collins, and was produced by Chris Morton. To find out about what we're up to at Inflammatory Neuropathies UK, head over to www.inflammatoryneuropathies.uk or check out our socials at InflamNeuro UK. That's at INFLAMNEURO UK.